How can artificial intelligence be applied to the world of logistics? That's the topic of my conversation today with Jack Peck. He is President and CEO of FastFetch. Jack, welcome.
Thank you.
So what are you experiencing these days in terms of the value of artificial intelligence? Where can it be a particular value in logistics and material handling?
Well, artificial intelligence allows us to solve problems which are extremely difficult in a relatively short amount of time. In particular, two areas that I've had some experience in. I came out of the world of academia where we did these types of things in research mode, and now we're taking them from the research mode really into the practice that we find in artificial intelligence in logistics.
So, what are some of the specific things, the specific functions that take place in the world of logistics where artificial intelligence can be of value?
Well, two that come to mind immediately are order fulfillment, in terms of how do we pick things quickly and accurately when you have very large numbers of things to be picked. The second, I would say, would be in the area of packaging. How do we select boxes, cartons, to put items into in such a way that there'll be a minimal amount of air shipped with them?
Okay, let's take that one at a time. Let's start with order fulfillment. What exactly can AI do, and how is it helping you to do something that a human could not do as well, if not better?
Well, let me just perhaps give you an example. Some of the companies that I know are shipping upwards of 60,000 orders a day. With those kind of orders, you can't simply take a box out and walk around, fill it up, and take the next box, all 60,000 of them. You have to do what we call batch picking. Typically, you would find a cart, you'd find lots of orders on the cart, boxes that there's going to be shipping these things into, and you would want to walk around the warehouse with maybe 20 orders or 50 orders at a time, saving a whole lot of time. Even that's not good enough. When you have 60,000 to pick, doing them 10 at a time on a cart, you're still going to take 6,000 carts worth of work in order to pick those 60,000 orders. That's still not going to make it. So what you need to do is to step back and say, what 10 orders or 20 orders or 50 orders should I put on each cart in such a way that it'll minimize my walking through the warehouse? If I can put 50 orders on a cart that can all be picked right over in this area of the warehouse, rather than running it all over the whole warehouse, it'd make a lot of sense. But unfortunately, that's not all there is to it. There are other constraints that many customers have. For example, when I get there to a picking location, a picking bay, I'd like to have a lot of commonality among those orders so that I can stop and do a whole lot of work when I'm in front of that bay. Other constraints are things like weight. The total cart can't weigh more than a certain amount because it's difficult to push it around. Other things are things like any box on the top shelf can't weigh more than a certain amount, because if it weighs more than that, ergonomically it's very difficult to get it down. So these things are very, very difficult. You cannot do an exhaustive search of all combinations of ways we could put these 60,000 orders on carts. It takes too much time. So you have to use some very clever artificial intelligence techniques. In fact, we use what's called biologically inspired algorithms that we've developed.
Biologically inspired? Tell me about that.
We borrow from the principles of biology. Mm-hmm. We get solutions, a fairly good solution, another good solution, we breed them together in such a way as to come up with an even better solution. So these are the types of things that we've taken from the academic world actually into the practical world.
So it's a question of artificial intelligence. It's kind of a brute force approach to information that is just too voluminous for a human being to even consider. Artificial intelligence steps in the age of big data and manages to do it. And I guess analytics on the other end, meaning a coherent result comes out.
Right. You can't do an exhaustive search, even with the world's fastest computer. If I look at all combinations, it would take literally years, maybe a century with the world's fastest computer. So you have to figure some clever ways of doing that. You might not get the 100% optimal solution, but if you can get about 95% of optimal in a very short amount of time, very short, I'm talking about a few minutes, then that's really what you want to do.
Okay, so let's talk about packing. Where does it come in there?
Well, in packing, people typically have maybe 8 to 10 to 12 different box sizes to pack orders. Think e-commerce, where you have a very small number of items in a box. And I'm sure that you've received things, as have I. You open the box and there's a little tiny thing down on the bottom with all sorts of dunnage in there surrounding it to protect it. That costs money. All the small parcel carriers, UPS, FedEx, DHL, all of those guys a couple of years ago started to charge more based upon the dimensions of the box rather than the weight. As a result, if people who are continuing to ship larger boxes than necessary are paying a whole lot more money for their shipping costs. So, question is, how do you determine what the right box size should be? Well, if I have 10 or 12 to select from, I don't have a lot of choices. So what we say is, why not have 100 box sizes? Obviously, if you had 100 box sizes, you'd do a whole lot better in terms of shipping less air. But the question then comes up, if I had the luxury of having 100 box sizes, what should they be? That's a tough problem. So what people sometimes do is to look at historical data, look at, well, we did it for one of the major retailers. We looked at over 1 million orders that had been shipped. And those orders, we knew, of course, the items that were in the orders, the dimensions of the items in the orders, the quantity of each item in the order, and the container, the box, that these items were shipped in. Again, doing some very clever artificial intelligence, we can then go ahead and decide which set of boxes, 150, whatever it might be, that would be best to have shipped this historical collection of orders.
And having those extra boxes, having 100 boxes, once you've selected what those 100 boxes are going to be, that's going to cost you to have that many boxes on site. But are you saying that at the other end, the cost of that is far outweighed, far made up for by your not shipping air? I mean, you're saving money on the other end, and on balance, you're in a better position.
What you said is true. However, you don't have to have a lot of boxes on hand.
You don't have to have 100 different kinds of boxes on hand?
You have to have 100, but you don't have to have 6 months worth of each one of those 100 boxes. All you have to have is a few days of those boxes. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you how we've been particularly out of academia applying some of the lessons that we've learned there into that type of problem. First of all, if you had 100 and you knew what those 100 were, you still have to find which one of those 100 is best. That's a problem in itself. And so people have what are called cubing algorithms, meaning that these are algorithms that, given the dimensions of the items, select the right box that would fit all of these things. That's actually in itself a pretty difficult problem. Particularly, people take two approaches to that. One approach is to do what they call liquid fill. What are the cubic inches in this container? What are the cubic inches of this item? Is it going to fit, basically? Yes, it will, or no, it won't. If it will fit, this box that we're considering here might be the right one out of the 100. Typically smart with the smallest one and work your way up. But the problem is, once you put that first item in, the inside of the box is no longer the same. As a result of that, the liquid fill method really doesn't work well. Other people have used what we call 3D placement, understanding that an item can be placed like this, can be placed like this, can be placed like this, and every item you have to look at relative to other items to figure out whether or not this is going to fit.
Like a puzzle, just fitting in all
it's
the
a puzzle,
pieces in place.
and people do that.
Yeah.
People aren't as good as computers, but it's very difficult to be able to figure out how people do it. That's where artificial intelligence comes in. And even things like nesting, tapered trash cans could be nested one inside of the other. So the amount of space that three trash cans is going to take up is not the sum of the dimensions of each trash can. Similarly, the inside of trash cans are hollow, so things can be packed in those. So the algorithm that you put together has to understand all of these possibilities and figuring out what box size is best. Some companies that have a machine that will make boxes, whatever size you want. Then we're not talking about carton selection, we're talking about deciding which carton would be best and then making it. So that's yet another problem that we use artificial intelligence, other people too, but we use artificial intelligence.
Complicated. I'm curious, Jack, you moved from the world of academia into the world of actually doing stuff, applying the theories to the so-called real world. Did it challenge any of your original theories? Did you have to change anything, any of your thinking when you actually moved into this world and actually started applying those theories?
As it works out, academia, what they do, they find a problem. Often, this isn't universally true, but many times true, they find a problem and it becomes too difficult to solve, so they relax some of the constraints. They simplify the problem until they can get a solution, and that's good enough. That doesn't work in the real world. The problem is as it is, and you have to take it as it comes and then find the best way, or the best way you can, to solve that problem in a way that makes a lot of sense. So yes, the problems in the real world are often more difficult than the problems we find in academia when you come right down to actually solving them.
Well, it certainly seems like you are solving some problems in the real world with artificial intelligence. Thank you so much, Jack, for telling us a little bit about what you guys are up to and the successes you've had so far. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it.
I've been talking with Jack Peck of FastFetch. Thank you very much for watching.